At the edge of the universe, 400 men and women are probing the immeasurable blackness of space. Their leaders are an Earthman with no fear and a stranger with no heart. Travel beyond our time and solar system, into new galaxies, into worlds beyond your dreams. Star Trek, every week, in color.
Oh, brother. Tuesdays, September 19th. It's 3 p.m. Pacific Earth time, so thus, time for serious Star Trek. I don't know how much Star Trek is going on this week. Maybe there's no news. Sometimes that's good news. But let's bring in the captain of this show and the captain of fun, Larry Young, Captain Fun himself. Hey, Larry.
Hey, Dan. How are you?
Good. What's happening, man?
It's always a pleasure to see you. You know that.
I don't know lately. We've been butting heads. It's been mostly my fault.
Oh, dude, not at all. No.
I've been getting just riled up on the internet. And whenever I'm sick and I'm just in bed and I have nothing else but the phone to consume my mind.
I mean, there's probably going to be a lot of stuff on your mind, but don't let it be that.
Good.
You know what I mean?
I won't. Shan't.
Oh, man. It's like, oh, hey, Dan's in a bad mood, I think. I'm not sure I did anything. Hey, did I do something? And you're like, no, I didn't. I'm really sorry. And I'm like, all right, let's move on. That's
all you did was offend my delicate sensibilities.
That's all I get. Well, yeah, that's what I do.
So are you familiar with the Gary Gnu show? You know what this is all about?
No, I have no idea.
Okay, this is a kid show called The Great Space Coaster, which I consider a sci-fi show because it had the weirdest. It was like the weirdest kids show that wasn't by Sid and Marty Krofft. Very, very teleporting clowns. And
is it that era?
Yeah, it kind of it was a little bit after, say, like Sigmund and the Sea Monsters. I think this was mid 80s. This is probably 80s.
All right. Well, that's why I'd never heard of it.
Yeah.
I was in college in the mid 80s.
Yeah, this was my prime. That was my prime thing. It was like three kids. The vaguely implied backstory of the credits is just like this outer space clown comes and picks up these three kids from Earth and takes them to this weird outer space place. And they have a rock band there and they show cartoons and stuff. But there's sinister evil. The clown can teleport and he escaped from an evil circus, and there's an evil circus master. But great puppetry and cool cartoons. So I know you wouldn't be into it.
It sounds. I was just saying, like, even when I was a boy, I would not have watched that. That sounds scary. I was all about adventure stuff.
What about Sid and Marty Krofft? Were you into that stuff?
I mean, not into it. I was aware of it. I like you know what, the opening titles of Sigmund and the Sea Monster was always pretty cool. I like that. Like some, a boy like is on the shore, like covered in seaweed, and a sea monster saves him, and like that's cool. That's not scary.
But Land of the Lost, what's cooler than? I mean, for a while that's all we had as a kid.
Land of the Lost was awesome. I could sing the thing right now. Marshall, Will, and Holly on a routine expedition. We used to sing that going down the slide on the like research.
I never saw the movie, the comedy reboot. I heard it was kind of funny. Okay.
Well, I can tell you, and people that know me and my family, my son and I thought that was better than Citizen Kane. And my wife had to go to the hospital because she kept throwing bleach in her eyes. She hated it so much. So it's one of those movies. She doesn't. It's Will Ferrell.
That's like a Three Stooges effect.
She doesn't like Will Ferrell's thing at all. She can take him if it's not the point of the movie. Like when he's in The Other Guys, she kind of thinks The Other Guys is pretty funny. The Marky Mark thing where they're cops. But anything where he's playing the drunken guy who nakedly runs down the street, she's just like, no, thank you. And so there was just too much of that in Land of the Lost to her. But that's what we loved about it. It's like that guy, Frank the Tank from Old School, is now in a subterranean Earth place with dinosaurs. Like, how do you not buy into that? And she just goes, because it's Will Ferrell.
But so did it deserve?
You're never going to get her.
Does it? It's one of those ones where it surprised me a little bit because I could have also seen them doing it as like a straight like adventure show again, or series and or
Yeah.
movie.
Well, it's one of those movies like Speed Racer, the Wachowski Speed Racer, where it's like the guys who did it totally got
Huh.
why you like the original source material. And so, but it's like, who are they making that movie for? Like me, right?
Yeah, right.
And my kid, who I've explained all the stupid stuff I like
Right.
to, you know? And that's not enough people to get something exciting. Because it's a serious adventure, Land of Lost thing. Like Enoch is in it, all the Slee stack, and they're fucking eating people. It's fucking
Oh, okay.
bananas.
Yeah, really.
But the conceit of it is that it's inherently stupid, right? And so there's a character, the cute girl science character is like, yes, we have to solve this and get back. And Will Ferrell's like, well, I got drunk on this prehistoric leaf thing. Haha, look, my hiney,
Right.
And it's like, so they're trying to do two things at once. And if you like Dude, Where's My Car, those kind of movies, it's great. If you're like 27 and you have nothing to do and you want to just get baked some afternoon and watch a dumb movie, it's great.
I feel like they're playing off of the fact that felt like a little cheesy, the show, like the effects or whatever, because it was low budget and it was TV. It felt cheesy, so they want to make the movie cheesy. But like the show was very like deadly earnest, cool mythology of Slee stacks and dinosaurs and the whole
all
deal.
all that's in the movie, and it's kind of writ large, right? I mean, they reveal that it's going down the little earthquake river road rafting thing was actually like a portal in the earth during the earthquake. It like just separates into this other world, and so they fall into this desert area, and there's all kinds of shit from different times, and it's great. There's like crashed World War II planes and like Roman chariots, and like, so they did a great job of treating it seriously. That was a little like, do you remember Thor 2? When they had that little thing, they were throwing shoes and keys into the portal and they found it in Asgard or whatever.
Yeah,
it was kind of like that, except, the world and not just this little, fountain or bucket or bubbly thing or whatever. But yeah,
those two movies, so many things. There's such a slew of pop culture that like so many things pass me by. That Speed Racer got so panned when it came out, but everything I've heard about it says it's like technically amazing and like just.
Have you ever seen it?
That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. It just went right by me, and I never saw it.
Oh, you
really want
to
now. I'm putting
it's
it on
great. It's one of those movies where everybody discovers 5 years later, and it wasn't even really. Speed Racer was more like that was just the what happens every once in a while that creatives in Hollywood, they call it their turn in the barrel, right? It's like kind of beyond anything that they've done and out of anyone's control. People just decide that they're getting shit on now. Like, and it's always guys that are at the top of their game, right? So the Wachowski brothers have the Matrix and stuff. And it's like Speed Racer, you're applying all those skills and everything that you loved in the Matrix movies. And we loved it to this other thing, but nah, that's your time in the barrel.
Right.
And the same thing happened to Andrew Stanton for making all that money for Pixar. And then when he does John Connor, they're like, no, there's literally nothing you can do now. We are going to tank this movie for you.
That's the other perfect movie. I'm putting that on my list. I'm writing a list of like movies I didn't watch because everybody said they stunk at the time, but actually were pretty cool.
Put Johnny Depp's Lone Ranger on there too, then. Because it's the same thing, like Johnny Depp makes everybody a movie across 100 pirate things, and then they're like, oh yeah, update to the Lone Ranger. Wow, this is actually a good movie. But that doesn't matter because you don't get to do that, Johnny. And I don't know who's pulling those strings, but it's really obvious that there's a theme. It's like, getting too big for your britches. It doesn't matter. Your next one is going to suck.
Is that Russell Brand's problem right now, Larry?
I don't know. I think he's just a douchebag. But
I've always thought that. So
I have.
Easy to believe. It's too easy to believe all the accusations.
Well, of course it is, but that's why I always thought that. Rick Austin actually said a great thing about this, and once you spelled it out, I went, oh, that's my actual. I don't have to have my own thought on this. I can be like a Trump voter and go, no, that I agree with this one, because it's like there's a guy that shows up on the scene. They're so outrageous. You're like, that is the most hilarious thing ever. And then you kind of ride that ride for a while until you start to see the cracks, the paint's chipping, and that thing that you thought was funny really isn't. It's got, and then but you're still on it, Like I bought his 2 of his books and a collection that was just his columns writing about soccer. I had no idea what he was talking about, but his writing style was so funny that I actually liked it. But that's what I started going, hey man, like this guy is not right in the head for real. It's not like Craig Ferguson kind of thing. Like, I'm a wacky European guy. Doesn't that sound outrageous? But I've embraced an area where we can all feel safe and talk about.
Yeah. Right.
Russell Brand's the opposite. He's like, aren't I a wacky European guy? Now take this Molly, whether you agree to this or not, and I'm gonna anally rape you.
Yeah.
Well, which in the audience is hilarious. Right on. He's not anally raping me. But then you're like, oh wait, that's not a pose. That's really going on. So
well, and it's weird though too, because he's been courting this sort of like wider audience, but really pivoting to a right-wing predominantly audience. It's been really obvious to everybody, but to me, I didn't understand why or what. There's a lot of talk like he saw this coming and he's trying to get an audience that he can't be canceled from because they won't care about this stuff.
That was the second half of Rick's thing, that you have a guy who's hilarious, then the cracks start to show, and then there's like he I don't know if it's him or me, because we were talking about this, that thinks, and then it's the Dennis Miller thing. Well, they're making a bunch of money, so of course they're Republican, because that's that's just,
and they're getting older,
retain
right?
your money. You're older, you got more money. Of course, that's an easy slide to accept too. But then it's like, oh wait, you're not just like an irrelevant dick like Dennis Miller, just going.
I still like Dennis Miller. I'm sorry,
I love Dennis Miller, but like I'm talking about in terms of pop culture, right?
Yeah.
No, that guy, everything he said in the 80s, he gets a pass forever.
Hey, that special, that black and white special it's one of the few 80s specials that really holds up.
He's fantastic. But then that's the character arc. And when you think about when Rick spilled it out, I'm like, of course that happens to all these guys. That's the Danny Masterson guy from that 70s show. He has something that you're interested in. They abuse their interest and power, and then they have to go to jail. It's just, it's everybody that can't handle their shit.
Is that why Lone Ranger tanked? Somebody really knew about
I
don't
think Russell Brand did that to get ahead of, because that guy.
You don't think so?
I don't think. No, I think he did it because he's always been Madonna. If you got it from Wish, where he looks at her career and goes, okay, this is my Madonna phase, and this is my desperately seeking Susan phase, and now's my fucking sleep with my backup dancers phase. You know what I mean? He's just if you think about it, just he's and now he's on the like I'm old and I have to do something, so I guess I'm gonna switch to MAGA and Trump and stuff like that.
I thought he was the perfect representative of what they call the wellness to woo-woo train, which is that like there's a certain amount of people that are on the left that have always been historically like identify as a very left-leaning person, whatever that means, who became Trump supporters because the anti-conspiracy angle, right? And they came to it through the wellness and health stuff. Like that's who that the dude with the horns, the MAGA horns guy.
Yeah, I just I don't care. I don't know anything about it. You know what? I feel about politics like how you feel about Star Trek.
Well, so it's part of your life then.
No, but we're on a Star Trek show, man. Tell me about Gary Canoes, the Gary Canoes show. What is that? Well, why are you using it as your background?
Just because of Great Space Coaster, my love of Great Space Coaster, and my sad lack of representation of Great Space Coaster on this show for so long. Anything that's filmed like on a live set, it wasn't necessarily live, but just like filmed with perspective tricks and stuff. Right.
I gotcha.
as my jam. And I wanted to have the picture in picture.
I gotcha. I thought I don't know. I thought you were just making some point about John Price not being here or something.
No. Well, and then also I thought if there's no Star Trek going, maybe there's no Star Trek news. So Larry, what is the Star Trek news of the week? Because I'll be honest, I would honestly say I love Star Trek, but I'm not an active Star Trek fan anymore. That's for sure.
That's interesting. Why do you think that? I mean, I have one thing, and then but don't forget that because I'm really interested in why that is, because I feel that happening to me in other areas of pop culture, and so I wonder if that answer is the same.
Star Trek came first, and Star Wars, like where it left me after kind of too many series, too much to keep up with, and just too far away from the original stuff, which is what I love the most.
Yeah.
So
well,
that's why I'm back now for Strange New Worlds.
That's a great segue into the news I was reading up on this morning in preparation of this. Like, where is John? Because I know John is up on this, but it came out that the Jonathan Frakes in an interview said that Discovery was back on track.
I saw it. I read it.
And it came. Oh yeah, I don't get Reddit. So like, was
no. I mean, I read an article about that.
Oh! I thought you said Reddit. I'd never figured out like the architecture of Reddit. So
I can't do that.
But I have a feeling a lot of stuff gets broke there and shows up other places. So I always feel I don't have FOMO in my life about anything except that. I think like I wish I wasn't so old that I knew how Reddit worked.
Whatever you do, don't regret not being a Redditor, Larry. That's
okay. All right. So he says Discovery's back on track, and everybody asked him to elaborate, and he just kind of was like, I don't understand what you're asking me to elaborate. The show's back on track. Hey, everybody, let's go, because he's Jonathan Frakes gung ho guy, and it comes out that like they. Season 5 was just about wrapping when for their initial shoot, the initial photography. There's plenty left to do, but it's just about winding up. I don't know. They didn't say how many episodes. They said it's winding up. And Paramount or CBS or whoever owns it now was like, let's just call it on season 5. So they had to scramble because it's a series finale, not a season finale. And they had to tie it up, and make sure it's not like, oh, it's a holodeck thing everybody was watching. And they're kind of stuck with the fact that they did a short trek by Michael Chabon that the ship is stuck in the future with nobody on it, and the computer is sentient. So it's like this Twilight Zone-y little sting that this thing is just waiting for people who are never going to return. And that's kind of a bummer ending. But
for Discovery,
I really hope that they make whatever they did for season 5 be this big, humongous fucking thing, and then everybody goes, well, that's great. We solved the thing we're never going to solve, but we had to sacrifice the ship, and then the sacrifice is that it has to sit there by itself alone forever. Like that's okay. That's a nice little Twilight Zone end. But I have a feeling they're just going to ignore it. That because it was like this 8-minute thing that with guys holodeck dancing around an empty bridge, and it was beautiful and poignant and seriously the only thing good Michael Chabon has ever written. But I think they'd be stuck if they.
I never really loved anything I read from the
guy. Is the death.
I couldn't get through Cavalier and Clay, which everybody raved about.
Well, you know why? Because that's not us. We're reading that book going, yeah, I could write a thinly disguised version of Seymour Schuster's life too. Yeah. And he won a Pulitzer for that, man. He won a Pulitzer for stealing, like just literally stealing stuff out of the newspaper clippings and making it fictional. Hey, nice work.
Speaking of Siegel and Schuster and stealing, man, dude. Gladiator, Larry. This is it. This is going to replace Starship Troopers as the book that I reference obsessively from now on.
I think that's unfortunate, but B, I want to tell you something cool. I knew you were going to bring this up. That's why I didn't write it out, because it's kind of long. But I'm on this. I have a lot of different kinds of friends, and I'm on this interesting thing that started out just being a writer's thing, but it turned into this really cool thing. Anyway, just completely absent of you. There's something in the air. One of the women on there just started quoting Gladiator, and I was like, "That's funny. That's a little data point for Dan, who thinks this forgotten work." It's like, well, somebody in September of 2023 that wasn't him was really popping off about.
Well, I don't think that it's a forgotten work, but it is. I didn't realize how modern it felt when you read it. Like I've read it, I've known about it for so long, and I never read it because I never heard great high praise for it as a novel or anything else. Like the most I ever heard was like, yeah, maybe Siegel read it. It's kind of, I mean, there's no Krypton in it, so he's not from another planet, so it's not Superman, right?
I think
And it's
people
so
try
much
to
better.
Yeah,
So
people
great.
trying to throw that kind of scholarship on pulp fiction of the time are just asking for trouble, because it's tropes, man. I mean, if it's Gladiator, then it's Doc Savage. It's not Doc Savage, it's Superman. It's not
Well,
Superman.
supposedly he inspired Doc Savage in another book, and he inspired Flash
So
Gordon in another book, and it's
that's what I
like,
mean. It was all a big thing, right? That people like Gladiator. I'm not taking anything away from it, but it's like Blade Runner, right? At some point, you know, even today, like 40 years later, my kid is writing a thing called Wet Streets and Neon right now. But before Blade Runner, that wasn't a thing, right? So now, just before Gladiator, that kind of trope wasn't a thing, and
well, but that's the thing. It's not a superhero. If anything, it reads like a deconstruction of superhero. It reads like a modern day, like Alan Moore would write this story, or like a
yeah,
gritty,
no,
a Frank
that's
Miller style
cool.
story.
But then
That's what's wild about it.
but you're throwing scholarship on it, because if you take it in its context, that's chicken and egg, right? It doesn't read like a deconstruction because it was first.
No, that's what I mean. That's what's fascinating about it.
Everything else reads like a deconstruction,
I mean,
or a
because
simplification of that.
there's chapters where he kind of makes fun of superheroes. He imagines himself like wearing like a strongman's outfit, and he's like laughing off how stupid it would be and stuff. It's pretty fun. And his self-hatred, his self-loathing, dude, it gets to me. And also his origin of being more like shame-based, both from his mom raising him religiously and for him like killing a guy accidentally in college. And that was the thing that made him just go like, oh my God, I can't. And then drop out of society. It was really like, and then he became the Zack Snyder Superman. That was fully
politics everywhere.
Like being on a ship and working out, going, just leaving and leaving.
You have to watch Brightburn so you can stop giving Zack Snyder shit. Brightburn is what you want. It's the J.J. Abrams version of the Superman that's gonna, go evil.
Well, I never read or I never watched Sucker Punch still, but I am excited for Rebel Moon if we want to pivot.
Sucker Punch is awesome.
I know you're a fan. I know you're a fan.
I think he gets unfairly maligned. I think he's doing a lot of subtle stuff with the frosting of what he gets accused of. And his audience isn't nuanced enough to understand that they are missing a giant joke. To this day, people are yelling about Superman is supposed to stand for him. It's like, yeah, he was telling that story, and Warner Brothers told him to stop. So it's not, don't bring that one up. Anyway, can I talk about this shirt?
I just love. I liked his more. Maybe it's just that he adapted such classics that are so classic that it's tough to live up to any of that. And he got the best of the very best of those books. Well, he got to do Watchmen, and he essentially dissected Dark Knight Returns and put it into Superman v Batman. So some of the better parts I did. So that's why I think he gets heat, but it's his original stuff. This Rebel Moon looks cool, even though it's thinly veiled, whatever. I want to see more of that.
How can you say, this original stuff? It's just
that's what I mean. But it's literally veiled.
But that's what you're saying. That's what he gets dinged for.
Here's why I ding him, because now you can't do a good Batman Dark Knight movie like the Dark Knight Returns, because we've seen a bunch of the coolest scenes were already in movies, and so
that's just this funny in joke that we have going about a kind of fan that, you post up a picture of a girl in a top hat. It's a girl, a magician, and some guy will go, Zatanna! Like, no shit. Of course that's Zatanna. You can't confuse that with anything else. And so it just the latest time somebody did that, we were talking about Wrath of Khan, and some guy goes, Space Seed! And that just like, oh my God. So Space Seed now is our... I love Tyler.
I think the Superman is Hope thing is kind of dumb.
Oh, but wait, before you get into that, because I agreed, but they have to explain why an English S is on his shirt, right?
I don't know that they do, or they could just... How about his mom makes it for him, and it just looks like a Superman, a superhero kind of thing. Like, it looks like a strongman suit. Like, that's what it was.
Well, because then you're Captain Amazing and Mystery Man, right? If you're putting a brand on your shirt to be the crime fighter, then you're why don't you have Pepsi logos and Pennzoil, right? So,
well, I always thought it was to distract you from kind of looking at his face a little more. Like, if you're gonna look, you get pulled to the S, and maybe that's like how he can keep his secret identity even a little bit more. That's the best I could come up with.
I always liked the John Byrne one, that he was always subtly shaking his face as he did stuff, so that's you never got a clear picture of him. I thought that was cool.
It's even better that he's just so fast. Nobody ever really gets a picture. You might see him, and it's almost always a blur anyway because he's zooming around. But that's the thing. Another thing I hate about Superman. Okay, I like a Superman that jumps.
What are we?
I don't like a Superman that hovers. I wish Superman couldn't just hover.
All right.
Like, I like the original leap. He could leap a tall building in a single bound. Like, that to me is so visceral. Like the Fleischer cartoons used to draw him that way.
I agree. Give me I would love to see an adaptation of the Fleischer cartoons that like exists in the present day. Like, just do full on Superman 2023. Everybody's got cell phones and digital.
Okay.
He's got a website and shit. But it's a guy who is from Kansas and can just, they have locomotives still in Kansas, right? And he's stopping them and leaping buildings and shit. Give me that. That's cool. I would dig that. I think that if you go all the way back to the basics,
that's a happy compromise. I know you don't. I want him to go back to 1920.
Oh yeah, no, and I actually agree with you. But you quadrupled the price of that movie.
Yeah, I agree, and maybe limited the amount of people who are just like, I don't want to see that.
No, that would be like the ideal, right?
But here's the thing. Wait a minute. One more Gladiator bit, Larry. I got to.
No.
I have to, because at the end of this thing, the very last page, spoiler alert, he's struck by lightning. He denies God. He's better than God. He's better than humanity. He's got his father's notebooks. He's struck by lightning, and they find his charred body, and that's it. The end. And I go, what if he faked his death, and he emerged from that, and he was Clark Kent at the end, and he called himself Clark Kent. He becomes the Fleischer Superman, which is also public domain. So you could do that.
That horrifies me. Just because that's modern thinking. So yeah, that's cool if you made up all those characters like 10 years ago. But like, to take all that stuff and do that, just I think
it'd be great. Oh, that'd be awesome.
No.
Plus, dude, it's so ultra violent. You could only do this book now.
But the end of it, I'm talking about the end where he's faked his death and he's Superman now. The only that's just, there's no reason to do that. Like,
you do it like with a wink and like he's dead. It's the solemn ending. Post-credit sequence, it's like him in a Clark Kent hat and he gives you that wink like George Reeves would give you in the old Superman show. That's Superman.
Okay. It's frightening.
Because the books were the secret, that was like the Greatest American Heroes book.
Sagasag just said, "My Adventures of Superman, best interpretation."
Ooh, I can't wait to watch this. I hear only good things about it.
I haven't seen it, but that reminds me to watch it as well. But it also reminds me to tell Sagasag that I met his buddy Andy. Maybe I don't know. We were at the Lowell football game on Friday, and I met some dad, and he says he's class of '85, and I'm like, holy shit, do you know Chris Guisig? Because I'm trying to say your name correctly, but that wasn't it. Or if it was, he didn't know you that way. And he goes, oh, you mean Chris Sagasag? And I'm like, I turned to Mimi, and I'm like, well, that's like, yeah. I was like, of course. I should have said, just, hey, you know Sagasag? It's like, yeah, that guy's cool. He was always there with us. And, you know, you loved your pop culture stuff. So, yeah, I get a little
I hear it's great. I don't know if Larry will like it because it's a cartoon. He usually doesn't like cartoons.
Motherfucker. I'll go watch the whatever's out, the first 3 as soon as I get off, and you know, whatever that takes. And an hour after, by 5:00, 5:15, I will post something on my Facebook.
I guess I don't know where to watch it though. Where is it?
I don't know, but
That's the thing. I don't even know.
Don't
Chris,
you have a
where's it
computer
at?
the size of a pack of credit cards in your hand that you can
I got one in my pocket. I got one in front of me. I got
just
one.
ask it anything like, where the fuck do I watch Adventures of Superman? And it goes, stop. Do you really have to use that language, Larry?
That's what we got chat for. Boom. There we go.
HBO Max.
Oh, okay. I got that. Although I've been thinking about canceling.
That's what we got chat for.
I think it's this. And this is why I haven't watched it. If it was Max, I would have probably watched it by now.
Yeah, that's so funny.
I really love. There was a really not watched 80s Superman cartoon. They did a little like Saturday morning version of Superman that was so close to the John Byrne Man of Steel. It was like, oh, this was
watched. That was beloved.
Oh, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Tim Daly did the voice of Superman, and he was he was the star of Wings at the time.
Oh, okay, so, yeah.
Everybody loved that cartoon.
Oh, but you never hear about it anymore. It's always all about
the 80s.
Yeah, it's all about the Adventures of Superman, the later one, which were good, but I thought that one was really top notch. Animation wise, too, for Saturday morning, it was a little cut above most.
Ruby Spears,
it was certainly a cut above of Ruby Spears.
Anyway, that's cool. So you know what this shirt is, right?
I guess I don't.
It's from Star Trek.
And that I knew.
There's it's the same command stuff from the Enterprise of the first 2 pilots, but this little symbol is the SS Antares from Charlie X.
Oh, okay, yeah. I couldn't have named the Antares, but that's what I figured was one of your. Yeah, tell us, hip the audience to the alternate insignia, Larry.
I love what you didn't say. You're like, oh yeah, that's one of your bullshit insignia things that you never.
No, I don't, dude. I don't have a horse in. I don't have a triple in this race.
So this is one of the episodes that makes you think, you know, every ship has its own insignia because of the visual storytelling. They're wearing the old shirts with a different insignia, but they have the same pants, the same boots. They're obviously space guys, and there's some made up thing. There's like the Merchant Marine. That's cool. I don't care about that. I'm just saying that's why everybody has different insignias. So on it's got a, you know, I had to have one. But the thing that's just bananas and what makes the story is that separately, Greg Gine, super famous behind the scenes guys that worked on all Star Trek, Star Wars. He worked on fucking Close Encounters. His first job in Hollywood was in Jaws, making the giant shark. Oh. But he just died of old age. But he has like the most amazing collection of props and stuff ever. So he loves Star Trek. So he's got Hua Chang tricorders. You know, there's 5 phasers that Hua Chang made. He has one of them. You know, but he has this shirt. So if I had just waited 10 days, instead of spending whatever it was, $20 to have this one thing made on Etsy, I could have got the real one for like $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. And I think
was it a science vessel, Larry? Remind me, what was the difference of it?
It was a Merchant Marine.
Okay.
One of the tender ships. They're just dudes going from back and forth, and so that's why they're wearing out of date uniforms and a different insignia. And I get that one. I just like it.
Can I make a confession? I've heard that term merchant marine my entire life. I don't really know what that means.
My grandfather was in the Merchant Marine in
Okay,
World War II.
hip us, Captain.
So
Fun.
it's not hip you, right? This is like his grandson's that's Kevin. His grandson's understanding of what he did during World War II.
Okay.
But he was too old, so he couldn't sign up for the Navy, and so he actually went to the Army recruiting office, and they're like, "Guy, you're too old. What the fuck?" And he's like, "Well, is the Air? They didn't have Air Force. It was the Army. Is the Army? I mean, is Navy going to take me?" They're like, "No. Maybe try the Merchant Marine." And so it's basically like Action Coast Guard, right? But they're the guys that tend ships, bring food, ammunition. It's a peacetime thing where the guys are bringing car parts around and stuff. They just tasked it for military supply.
Oh, I see. So it's not during wartime necessarily that they're doing supplying, or it is during the war. That's what I don't get.
I mean, I don't think there's Merchant Marine now. Like our buddy Brian Shaneman is a Washington lobbyist for those guys. So he's the guy to actually ask about this. But the thing I like about it personally, it's a fucking adventure TV show in the 60s, right? And these guys show up and they have the old shirts on with a different thing. And they're like, yeah, these are the guys from, using our equipment that was new 25 years ago, right? And so they were the us, except now they're not. And they say that in dialogue, like, you're going to love this place, Charlie. We got a bowling alley downstairs, all this stuff that we don't have because we're the guys just doing the real job, right? And so I like that for all the reasons that you would imagine.
I do too.
But they do such good world building that, like, the stuff they say in dialogue for bringing Charlie on the ship, just on the steps of the transporter, would be 3 episodes in Discovery. You know what I mean? They just do all this world building. Like, here's what's happened, blah, blah, blah. And everybody goes, oh, yeah, that's very similar to this in the real world. These guys are just like the space truckers, I guess. And you go on with your awesome show about how he's got mind control.
Yeah.
The Discovery, it's like, oh, well, this is why that happened. And they bought a taco, and here's how you crush cornmeal. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
It's also more true to the Star Wars text of Starship Troopers, Larry, if I might break Starship Troopers again on this episode. Because in that one, they all had different insignias and songs for each ship. And the dudes, if they got a kill, they would get to wear an earring with the insignia on it. Like, that was what made them tough. And like, for every drop that they had, they got to add like a little hook to the earring or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah,
I read that. I read it in high school.
Oh, yeah. And then the song, the corny song, the Roger Young song, that ballad of Roger Young is like...
Yeah, what's corny about that? His last name is Young.
That's true.
Anyway, by those guys, nautical stuff hooks you. Yeah, I mean, that's what hooks everybody, I think. It's like, because it's immediately identifiable even to little kids, right? Like, little kids have a concept of what soldiers are, right? Yeah, these are soldier guys in space, but they're mostly scientists, and they try to make the right decision. It's like, what do you need to know? It's a Western. Those guys, that's the sheriff, that's his best friend, that's the doctor. Like, what do you need to know?
It really is a submarine, like almost like a submarine battleship type scenario. But I like that they tried to sand the military edge off of the whole thing a little bit. Yeah.
Well, you gotta, they just use ranks, right? And you have to have bosses. So why not have like a paramilitary command structure? I mean, that's what goodwill is, right? So it's not that big. I got a really cool story for you. Mimi used to work a couple jobs ago for this place. I probably shouldn't say their name, but it was called Font Shop down at South of Market. And they wanted to do some kind of big, to do for one of their Christmas parties. And so Mimi says, hey, we have all these, full-size movie props. Pick a couple things and we'll put them up. And so they chose an astronaut suit and my riot gear from Children of Men. And they set it up and they did these cool things. They projected like Adam Savage's face on the mannequin in the spacesuit. It was great. They did cool stuff like that. But like, after having meetings for 10 days about whether they really wanted to glorify the police violence that having, riot gear would. Like, dude, it's a Christmas party.
Lame.
Put the Children of Men movie poster behind it, and everybody goes, "Oh, I remember that scene," and goes back to getting drunk and trying to talking shit about their bosses. You know what I mean? So that's what I don't like about
That
it.
reminds me, I need some 3D scans of some of your, like a spacesuit or something like that. Something
Okay.
real. Yeah, we gotta make that.
I actually have a project for you. Can I talk about it since it's Star Trek?
Why not?
I don't know if you remember in Lower Decks, we were all excited. They brought back the Spock toy.
The helmet.
Yeah, with the sign.
Yeah, love it.
So I got one, but it's kid scaled.
Oh, okay.
So I can send it to your post office box.
Send me the file.
No, if I had a file, I'd be.
Oh, I thought you had
my
files.
15. But if you could work your thing and do a scan of that, you can work all your magic you want. Mail me back that thing, and I'll make a STL file. And
The problem with that is the scanning process is not great to make STLs. It's not like accurate to that.
Well, like I said, it's a kid's toy, and all I want to do is just like bump it up about 30%.
Yeah.
So I don't care about fine detail. I just need the shape.
I think if we could do a scan, you have an
It's an
iPhone,
easy
Larry?
thing
Do
to
you
do.
use an iPhone?
Yeah.
Dude, get the program called Polycam for that thing.
Okay.
And you could literally do it in. There's a free version too. You can get a free scan. The first few scans are free or whatever, and you'll be scanning up. You can scan whatever you want in no time.
It's just POLYCAM.
Yeah, Polycam.
All right. Well, it's some future edition of
we'll make it happen.
Serious Star Trek. Maybe who's here today? Is okay, Chris and Hector and Phyla. And El Crudo, Rick Austin. Oh, all right. Maybe
Hollywood big shot Rick Austin. Should we touch on the strike a little bit? Because I want to touch on Larry's point, which I think is a great point. I have that we got to get focused on not shaming the people that come around to our ideas in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that was lame what they're doing to Drew.
Plus, Bill Maher deserved it so much more. But thank God, Bill Maher, best known for his role in the seminal 80s comedy DC Cab.
He's best known for being douchebag number 3 in Max Headroom. That was that's great. He's a Blipford executive.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, you should Google it afterwards.
I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Anyway,
I mean, both of their shows, I'm sure, realized it was going to be really tough to book people that want to be on their shows too. I do give them credit.
I love that Bill Maher kind of skated through because it didn't reach the level of stupid douchebaggery that people expect from him anyway. So,
I mean,
when he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do my show," and everybody's like, "Yeah, well, of course he's a scab because he's a douchebag." But let's go back and yell at Drew.
Yeah. That I agree. That was kind of misplaced, and there's so much more hatred. The hatred is obviously for the studios. You're right, dude. That's where we got to focus this thing on these people that are playing hardball with other people's lives.
The thing I'm getting sad about is that they're starting to do the dirt mall stuff. You know, the antiques and flea markets and stuff that Steve Euchrin and me and my kid, we love. Now the fucking, crew people are having to sell their shit because they've been out of work for 9 months for fucking no reason whatsoever. It's like, and I just feel really bad where you're like, I have to pay my mortgage. So here's the car from RoboCop.
Totally true.
You know what I mean? It's
totally true. Although on the other hand, most of those people below the line employees, they have their own unions too. And I know they would appreciate solidarity when it comes time to renegotiate whatever contracts they might have. So
I don't know anything about it. Just pay the people.
To be honest, I want those people to work, but I just want it to just get to the point, and I feel like it's going to get there a lot sooner than it ever could before. We'll just be like, fuck it. Fuck the studios. Fuck them. We'll just make our things. We'll start making our things and figure out how to monetize. We'll kickstart them. we'll crowdfund them.
Did you
And
hear? Speaking of that, did you hear about the Eagle has landed, the Kickstarter for the documentary about the Eagle rocket from Space 1999?
no.
Yeah, this guy, I wish I could remember his name. He's a really cool guy, but he's a director that's kickstarting this movie, and he's talking to Brian Johnson, the model maker that worked on 2001. All kinds of big shots, people like Space 1999, Barbara Bain, main characters in it. Anyway, that just launched a couple of days ago. And I was like, well, I don't really like Kickstarters until it's something I think is valuable.
Yeah.
I guess that's like everybody, right? I was just make a big deal of going.
Kind of the beauty of them, right?
Yeah,
It's the
yeah.
niche
So
interest.
anyway, My Monkey's Name is Jennifer by Ken Knudsen. I backed that one and got it. That was cool. And yeah.
But so it's about the making
wait
of a fictional rocket?
Yeah, so the main ship in Space 1999, it looks like something that could actually be real.
Everything in that show looks amazing. All the models are so cool.
Yeah, it's the main one though. It's like long. It's got a pod in the front, engines in the back, and 4 little landing gear, and it's railings. It looks like something that should work. Like you know what I mean? I don't know where you're keeping your fuel, but it looks like it should work. And yeah, so he's using it as the conceit is that he's a movie director now, and he's like, he loved Space 1999 when he was 7, and his into the show was he loved the ship, and then his love for the show turned into his career as an adult, and so he's going around and showing the love of his show, showing his love of the ship that basically started everything in his life, and the whole connection. It just sounded like a really cool idea. And something that will happen. It's not vaporware. I mean, because Barbara Bain, all the interviews are already secured. The Kickstarter is just paying for his plane tickets to fly around to all these people.
Was Jerry Anderson, do you know, was he like a hands-on model dude, or was he more just like a high-level producer who just hired super high quality?
I don't know. It's a little before my time of following stuff like that, but I would guess, because he was known for the Super Marionation, the puppet shows. They had to do everything at scale anyway.
Yeah.
So like when one of his puppets got into a car, that's a model, right? So
Supercar. You ever watch Supercar?
No, I didn't care about any of that stuff. I know all about it, Super Joe and Thunderbirds. I don't care. But
I hated them. They're unwatchable to me. But you go, well, look at that ship, look at that supercar, look at that model. Like, you could tell where his attention was going for sure.
That's the perfect example of like why I hate cartoons, but I say you put people in it and I'm fine. Because that's literally Jerry Anderson. I didn't care about any of that stuff. But the second they put people in it, UFO is my favorite show.
Yeah, true.
And it's the same thing. The ships are flying on wires like puppets, right?
But it's a little different from the guy getting into the car.
It's not though. They hired little wooden actors, and they all look. Their hairs are styled like the puppets. Dude, I love it. Derek Meddings, yeah, Martin Bauer.
So I don't know. Honestly, I only got introduced to Space 99 from you. Pretty
really?
much. Like, I knew of it as a thing. But I still haven't watched a lot of it. But I started just what I watched. There's a couple really nice. Jerry Anderson has a bunch of documentaries about it.
Yeah.
And he was talking about the making of UFO and then how that turned into Space 1999. I was like, wow, this is cool, man.
That's what's really cool about, for me, anyway, as a fan, is that I was a fan of UFO already, which is that's insane for like, I was 8 or 9. In America, right? They played it on CBS, but it was like late night and they were just burning somebody else's show. Right?
Okay, so that's how you actually saw it.
I saw it on UHF channel WGBH 56 in Boston. Every time I went to go visit my grandparents, I would be like, "Oh, good to see you, Granny." It's 3:00 though. I got to go watch UFO, which is, as you know, a show I cannot get where I live.
Yeah, PBS. That's where you get British.
No, it was the UFO was like full on, like how you watch Star Trek and
syndicated,
Wild West syndication. Yeah,
I guess when you got a show with those kind of production values, like the quality of the ships alone is like that's worth. You could just put that on in the middle of the day and somebody's gonna watch it.
And it's fucking bananas. UFO is incredible.
Which is better, UFO or Space 1999?
UFO.
UFO is the one. That's the one that looked interesting.
UFO's got a better story, and it holds up because it's more adult. Space 1999 is really good conceptually, and the production value is top notch. But the first season is the answer to everything is like, well, this sucks. We got blown out of the Earth's orbit, and I hope we don't die. What a mysterious phenomenon we just encountered. That's every episode, right? So that's a little bleak. And then they hired third season producer of Star Trek, Fred Freiberger, to fucking jazz it up.
We love him.
And then it looks jazzier, and that he did his job, except they turned it into Monster of the Week, which does not hold up. Monster of the Week from 1976 does not hold up now. So UFO, although completely dated, and in the beginning it says it's the future of 1980, right? It's kind of charming. It puts you on notice that this is an old show, right? So as an audience member, you kind of go, all right, I'll spot him that everything looks ancient, right? And then so you start paying attention to the story, and then you're like, fucking, I can't believe the main character let his injured son die instead of like release the idea that there's aliens on the Earth. Like that would never happen in a show. And there's always like people boning and getting drunk, and like, you know, people losing their shit on the moon, and you're kind of like, oh, that's cool. I knew Philo would. That's why I called out Channel 56, because I knew somebody from back east would know. Look at he said.
Which was just like a small UHF station when that meant something.
No, you know, Channel 12 here, coffee.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It's
James
like
Gabbard.
Right. It's like coffee for Boston.
But like coffee, even is a shadow of its former. Do they still do that dance party thing?
No, I mean back in like the early 90s.
Oh,
coffee.
Yes, wonderful.
Yeah.
That's where I watched Batman reruns, Batman 66 reruns, and
right. That's
Hogan's Heroes.
That's the exact kind of channel.
I just miss that kind of TV. That kind of TV channels after the consolidation of networks and stuff after 1996. It was just like we lost a lot of those channels.
I agree, but don't you kind of think that we have that now? Like, holy God! Like, Chris, by the way, thank you.
We have it better now. It's better now.
Morris, but like Chris Sagasag will be like, "There's a Godzilla channel now."
Yeah,
and I have my TV. When you start my TV, it's set to the Dry Bar Comedy channel. So when my TV turns on, people are laughing and having fun. Like, think about that for a second, right? There, like in the old days, you couldn't leave it on something and you knew that that's what you would get.
Yeah.
Right. Like now you can do it even in the news. If you're like, I just want some dry facts reporting, like whatever you want, there's a channel for it.
The only time we would get that was like on coffee would be the marathons, the Twilight Zone marathon every year. And they did the Superman, George Reeves Superman. Talk about a waste of a show. I'm sorry. I mean, dude, it's good. But like, there is nothing. He doesn't do anything super but fly, and once in a while, just like grab a guy. There is so little superness in that show.
Okay, really?
Very little superness.
X-ray vision, bullets always bouncing off him.
Like, it's just it's just, I don't know.
Dude, it's 1956. Like, what do you want?
I guess it was, you know what it was to me is the lack of villains, and why I love Batman, because I love Batman so much, because you got all the villains done really well. And Superman, we didn't even get Lex Luthor. We got nothing else from the comics except Superman himself. So it just felt like a not a poorer version of Superman than we could get.
But you're looking back on it, right?
Plus black and white and everything. Yeah, no, of course. I'm looking at it through young
1956, you're not getting a better show. That show was
I'll fucking
bananas good. I loved it. And some of the stuff that you're, decrying actually is charming now, I think. Like I said, there's bullets, some guys, some gun cell is shooting at Superman and it's going ping, ping, ping. And then he whips the empty gun at him like that's going to do something.
True.
Oh, wait. And Superman ducks out of the way. He's just having bullets bounce off you. Like, dude, the bullet's going to bounce off you too, except, all right, he's an actor. Right?
Yeah. There was never
charming, man.
True, but there was never even anything close to a credible threat to him. So just the stakes are kind of low. Batman, every week at the end of the episode, it's like he's getting dumped in acid or alligators or, whatever. Stakes felt real.
Why are you comparing those two, though?
Well, because I watched both of them on Channel 20. Like I used to watch marathons of both of them. And one Batman, I can't stop watching. Superman, I could stop watching. You
So
watch
that's
you're there.
So you just don't like old stuff.
I love Super. I love Batman. I just don't
The
like
context for those two things are not two things you watch as a kid on some show with they're burning them because they're practically free. Because Coffee actually had enough sense to buy 16mm prints themselves, so they don't even have to.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean that's how you go around syndication, right? But like but comparing the actual shows themselves, even as a kid, I knew, okay, that's black and white, so that tells me that's an old show. So that gets, remember how quaint those old shows are.
Yeah, no, because Twilight,
okay, that's all.
Twilight Zone marathon, though, I'm all in.
It's old stuff.
Same era. I mean, I like black and white. I'm totally love Twilight. It's just the difference in the storytelling.
I would, as a kid, even I would never compare Twilight Zone and Superman because Superman's episodic and Twilight Zone is an anthology show. So, like,
Superman's episodic. Every episode is pretty.
It's an episode.
Yeah,
no, but that's why I liked it as a kid. And Twilight Zone is like, is that a good one, or is that a scary one, or is that a boring one? You had to do calculations to watch Twilight.
Oh, for sure. There's definitely ones I didn't like as much.
But that's why as a kid I would just be black and white was my demarcation line. It's like that's stuff that's old, and then because I'm watching Star Trek in color.
Yeah, I just can't think of my favorite episode of Superman, but I could easily think of my couple favorite episodes of the Batman series. That's like because they stood out more. I love that. That era of filmmaking. I think Batman was like the high water mark of that 60s TV, and I guess it's the 50s-ness of Batman or of Superman that makes it not so great.
Okay, cool.
Larry, I got to get out of here. It's 4:00.
All right, that's a good idea.
About that time, I got to pick up the old kids. And but wait a minute, what do I got to take us out on here today? Oh, I got something fun based on what we talked about today. But next week, I don't think I can make it. So either we got a confirmed price, you'd go solo, or you could line up, bring in Big Show or somebody.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely do something.
Okay,
great. I talked to Rick. I was just thinking about that today. Let's see if I can track down Guy Varda and make him be on the show.
I like where you're going, Philo. Green Acres for comedy. Mwah. Mr. Haney, are you kidding me? Mr. Haney alone. Agreed. Okay, Larry. So we've established there will be a show next week.
Yeah.
I will probably not be there, but it would be at 3 p.m. Pacific time, I believe. But oh man, where, Larry? Any idea where we could maybe do that thing?
On the internet.
I'm Sonny Tufts.
I'm Gloria Jean.
Join us here on WCBN-UZ-ZHYO TV right here in Scarsdale.
For the most exciting new show since Whiplash, Space 1999.
A firecracker explodes, sending the moon into a complete tizzy.
And making all of us totally wacko.
Come with us and our co-star, S.C. Sackcow.
Space 1999. It's going to be a very, very good year.
Well, fair.
Not too bad.
Come see, come saw.
Well, good enough for Abe Mandel.
For Abe Mandel.